was 30 minutes early for the service, and
see, we sometimes change the times of the service and then we don't put it on the website. It's just fun that way. It's our way to torment people like Leslie.
I actually got into the parking lot at about 8 o'clock. So I had like 30 minutes to prepare myself to come in to what I had no idea it was. I was on the phone in tears with my best friend, saying, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And him saying, you have to go in, put one foot in front of the other, and just go in. They're not going to eat you.
They were almost right. He was almost right. When you walked through those doors, you were there a half hour early. We moved the service down to 9 o'clock. And the praise team was finishing up sound check, and I remember that day, everyone was scrambling around getting tables ready and everything. That was in the old building where we didn't have the table set up most of the time and everything done beforehand, and so people were scrambling around running like madmen. What was kind of going through your mind at that point?
You know, I don't think I saw anything. I think I was just starting to shut down, but the music was like telling me that I was supposed to be here. I had told my roommate that morning, please let this place play music that speaks to my heart. And I walked in the door and I recognized the song and I said, thanks. It was just exactly what I needed.
That's awesome. Now, take us back a little bit. Where were you spiritually before this point?
God and I had a very stagnant relationship. I had pulled away from the church in 1989 after my mother had died, because the church that I was in thought that the way for me to deal with my grief was to put me in an Al-Anon group, because my mother was an alcoholic. That wasn't dealing with the loss of my mom. It was just telling me why I was imperfect and why I wasn't good enough to this world because I was an adult child of an alcoholic. So I pulled away from the church and I said, I can worship God in my truck, on a mountain, on the beach, in my bathroom, wherever I choose, and I shunned churches for a long time. Wow.
What kind of brought you to start looking for a spiritual family?
Well, I had a dream of my mom, and one of the things throughout my entire childhood was my mother would, if I had a problem, she'd say, are you right with God? And as a child, of course, we would always pray. But as an adult, I'd always say, I'm right with my God. I don't know about yours. But I had a dream, and I kept having this dream that I need my mom sitting at the table with me over a cup of coffee saying, you need to get right with God. That's why your life is such a mess. You need to get right with God. And I kept listening to that, and I just kept, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Easter Eve, I decided that I needed to, talk to God, and I needed to I knew that my life with God was stagnant, and when you have a stagnant relationship, you need to do something to fix it. And so I knew the only place that I could find God, because if He wasn't right here with me, He was going to be in church. So I decided to go to church that next day, and I did go to church, but it wasn't this church. It was another church.
So how did you hear about the experience?
Well, in June, I contracted MRSA, which is a really bad skin infection, and I couldn't work because it's highly contagious. And my entire life felt like it was falling apart. I felt like a leper. I felt like not even God can love me now because I'm just this horrible person. And I went outside on the deck, and I lived up in Idaho City, and I opened up the doors on the deck, and I said, all right, what is it that you want? Because I quit. And it was like a voice said, you need to go to church. So I was like, it's too far, I can't do this. And then Brian was on the radio saying, this is the experience. And Jason came on the radio and said, I drive 65 miles, I spend $20, I'm an hour in the car, and I get what I need from the experience. And I said, okay, I'm going. and I win. I've done that.
I told you to. You came into the experience scared to death, and the first person you saw was Jack. How many people has that happened? No, raise your hand. He sat you down at a table and introduced you to Ashley.
Yes, he did. Well, actually, she came up and
She
said,
introduced herself to you.
"Are you with the band?"
She was doing her job. She was checking out, making sure you were taken care of. And she sat down and talked with you.
She did. She introduced me to anybody that passed by and made me feel like I belonged there, even though I was really, had the big neon sign that said, "Clueless."
So after that first week, how were you feeling when you left church?
I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay through the second service because I just felt so good. And the whole week I was like, I can't wait for Saturday. I can't wait for Saturday. And it used to be I couldn't wait for Saturday because I didn't have to go to work. But it was because I could come back here.
Yeah. So the second week you came back thinking, what?
It's not going to be the same. It was a one-time thing. They're going to be two-headed monsters, they're cannibals.
It's the second week the cannibals come out.
It's not going to be the same, but it was. And I have to say that Brian will say that it's not him, but every week you touch my heart by something that you say. It may just be one little word or something, but there's always something that I take home from your message.